The purpose of this video is to explain to you how French verb conjugation works when you think about it from the phonological standpoint, the standpoint of sound. Now, verb conjugation is important because you need to conjugate the verb properly in order for the entire sentence to make sense. It's about matching up the person who's doing the action with the way the action itself sounds. The problem with French is that verb conjugations, in terms of their spelling or their morphological form, often are quite different from how they sound or their phonological form. There are two kinds of things that you need to figure out. The spelling or the morphological forms are often confusing. They have many different exceptions, they don't necessarily follow clear patterns, but if you listen to the verbs, if you follow their sound or look at them from the phonological point of view, you'll actually figure out that there are some basic patterns that hold true for all verbs. So I'm going to try to explain each of these kind of major categories of French verbs from the sound standpoint over the course of a couple of videos. So this is page 4 of the verb packet, Le présent vu d'autre manière. The previous pages, starting with page 1, gives you a sense of definition of terms, the verb tenses. Page 2 is simply the spelling forms. Here are the ER verbs, the RE verbs, the IR verbs, standard endings that you would put onto those verbs based on taking a stem. Danser, danse, without the ER would be the stem. Vendre, vont, without the RE would be the stem. Finir, fin, without the IR would be the stem. And then you put on the endings and there you go. The problem with that is that if you look at these, a bunch of verbs that are IR verbs completely are conjugated differently than what you would expect. And then there's a gazillion irregular verbs that don't follow any pattern. When you look at these verbs from the phonological standpoint, you'll find that there are 3 groups, and here's the first group. Group 1 is composed of the ER verbs, largely, in addition to a few other types of verbs, ouvrir and verbs like that, courir, which is kind of its own special thing, same thing with rire, voir, and croire. Now, how do these verbs work? Let's take parler, for instance. Parler, to speak. Je parle, tu parles, il parle. Nous parlons, vous parlez, il parle. Now what you'll notice here is that the singular forms, je, tu, il, and also the third person plural, il plural, are all basically the same sound. Parle, 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 parle. Only in the new form, parlons, parler, do they differ. So it's important to understand that you've got the stem, parle, which then adds the silent endings. All of these endings are silent. Je parle, tu parles, with an S that is silent. Il parle, or elle parle. Il or elle, plural, with an S that you can't hear when it's pronounced, parle. The two that are different, nous parlons, vous parlez, nous parlons, vous parlez. Voilà. I'm going to pause here because I think I'm going to run out of time, and I'm going to come back and go through manger, commencer, and lever, which are all ER verbs. After those, in a third and fourth videos, I'll go through ouvrir, courir, rire, and lastly, voir and croire.